A 30-year-old who invests $500 a month until 65 ends up with around $1.1 million at a 7% return. A 35-year-old doing the exact same thing ends up with about $760,000. 5 years of waiting just cost you $340,000. That's a house. That's a kid's college. That's a decade of retirement. And here's the uncomfortable part. Most men in their 30s know this. They've seen the compound interest chart. They've had the conversation with their dad, their buddy, their girlfriend, and they still don't start. I'm Joe, and today we're figuring out why. Let's start with the data, because this isn't a vibe, this is a trend. A 2024 Vanguard report on retirement readiness found that the median 401k balance for Americans aged 35 to 44 is just $45,000. 45 grand. That's the middle of the pack for guys who, in theory, have been working for over a decade. And it gets worse when you zoom out. A Federal Reserve survey of consumer finances showed that nearly 40% of men between 30 and 39 have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. 4 out of 10, basically nothing. Now you might be thinking, okay, but maybe they're paying down debt. Maybe they're saving for a house. Maybe life is just expensive right now. And yeah, some of that is real. Student loans are brutal. Rent is insane. Grocery prices feel like a practical joke. I'm not going to sit here and pretend the economy hasn't squeezed this generation. But here's where it gets interesting. A 2023 study from Bankrate found that 56% of Americans who aren't investing say the main reason is that they don't have enough money to invest. Makes sense, right? Except, when researchers broke it down by income, the same percentage showed up in households making over $100,000 a year, guys pulling 6 figures, also saying they can't afford to invest. So it's not actually about the money, not primarily. Something else is going on. And here's the stat that really got me. A Fidelity study tracked investor behavior across age groups and found that men in their 30s were the single most likely demographic to say they were planning to start investing soon for 3 or more years in a row. 3 years of soon, 3 years of next paycheck, 3 years of once I get that raise. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 returned 26% in 2023 and another 24% in 2024, and they watched it happen from the sidelines. The tuition on that procrastination is generational. So why does this happen? Why do smart, capable, often well-paid guys in their 30s freeze? This is where it gets psychological, and I want to introduce you to a researcher named Hershfield. He's a behavioral scientist at UCLA, and he spent his career studying how we think about our future selves. Hershfield ran a now famous study where he put people in MRI machines and had them think about themselves, and then think about a stranger, and then think about their future self 30 years from now. Here's what he found. When most people thought about their future self, their brain activity looked almost identical to when they thought about a stranger. Not themselves. A stranger. Let that sink in. On a neurological level, your brain treats 65-year-old you like some random guy you've never met. And you are not wired to sacrifice for a stranger. That's why saving feels like loss. That's why investing feels like giving money away. Because somewhere in your brain, you're giving it to a dude you don't even know. Hershfield then ran a follow-up experiment. He took people and showed them age-progressed photos of themselves, like those apps that show you as an old person. Then he asked them how much they'd save for retirement. The group that saw their future face saved more than twice as much as the control group, just from seeing a picture. That's how thin the connection is between present you and future you. Now layer on top of that something specific to guys in their 30s. This is the decade where men get hit with what psychologists call identity instability. Career changes, marriage, kids, buying a first home, losing parents, becoming parents. There's so much present tense chaos that future tense planning feels almost absurd. It's like, how am I supposed to plan for 65 when I don't know where I'll be living in 18 months? And here's the other thing nobody talks about. There's a deep shame loop around money for men in this age bracket. A 2022 study from the American Psychological Association found that men aged 30 to 45 reported the highest levels of financial shame of any demographic group. Higher than women in the same age bracket, higher than men over 50, higher than guys in their 20s. Why? Because by 35, society quietly expects you to have it figured out. You're supposed to own a house, be on track, know what a Roth IRA is. And if you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to look at the numbers. You definitely don't want to open a brokerage account and confront the fact that you're behind. So you avoid. You tell yourself you'll start next month, next quarter, next year, when you get the promotion, when the kid's out of daycare, when you feel ready. But here's the brutal math Hershfield's work points to. Readiness is a feeling, and feelings don't compound. Dollars do. And there's one more piece to this puzzle. A behavioral economist named Shlomo Benartzi, who works with Richard Thaler, the Nobel Prize winner, found something called present bias is strongest in men during high-earning years. The more money you make, the more tempting present consumption becomes, because you can afford nicer stuff. So the guy making $60,000 at 25 might actually invest a higher percentage of his income than the same guy making $140,000 at 35. Because the 35-year-old has a mortgage, a car payment, a lifestyle. And lifestyle creep is just present bias with a nice watch on. Okay, enough diagnosis. Let's talk about what actually works. Because the good news is, the fix doesn't require willpower. It requires systems. Step 1. Automate before you moralize. Do not, I repeat, do not try to invest based on what's left over at the end of the month. There is never anything left over. That's not a budgeting failure, that's human nature. Parkinson's law says expenses rise to meet income, and your checking account proves it every 30 days. Instead, set up an automatic transfer the day after payday, even if it's $200, even if it's $100. The amount matters less than the automation. Open a Roth IRA at Fidelity or Schwab or Vanguard, set up a $200 monthly auto transfer, and put it into a target date retirement fund. Takes about 15 minutes. Done. That $200 a month from age 32 to 65 at 7% becomes about $290,000 from doing nothing, from 15 minutes of setup. Step 2, max the match. This is free money and you're leaving it on the table. If your employer offers a 401k match, let's say they match 100% of the first 4% of your salary, and you're not contributing at least 4%. You are literally refusing a raise. On a $75,000 salary, that's $3,000 a year you're saying no to. Over 30 years, with growth, that one decision is worth over $300,000. If you do nothing else from this video, log into your benefits portal this week and turn on at least the match percentage. That's it. That's the whole play. Step 3. Use the 1% rule. Here's the trick that broke it open for a lot of guys I talk to. Don't try to go from 0% saved to 15% saved overnight. That feels impossible, and it is impossible because your lifestyle is calibrated to your current spending. Instead, increase your contribution by just 1% every 6 months. So if you're at 4% now, go to 5% in July, then 6% in January. You will not feel it. I promise you will not feel it. Your paycheck goes down by like $25. But in 5 years, you're saving 14% of your income without ever having a painful cutback moment. Most 401k platforms have a feature called auto escalation that does this automatically. Turn it on, forget it exists, come back in a decade. Step 4, meet your future self. I know this sounds cheesy, but Hershfield's research is clear. The single most powerful behavioral intervention for retirement saving isn't financial education. It's emotional connection to your future self. So do the weird thing. Download one of those aging apps. Look at 65-year-old you. Give him a name if you have to. Write him a letter. Whatever it takes to make him feel real. Because here's the truth. Every dollar you invest today is a gift to that guy. And every dollar you don't invest is a bill you're handing him. He's going to have to work longer or live smaller or lean on his kids. That's on you. Present you. And one bonus move, because I know someone's going to ask. If you're sitting on a big chunk of cash, like more than 6 months of expenses just sitting and checking, that's not safety, that's drag. Inflation ate 3.4% of it last year. Put your emergency fund in a high-yield savings account earning around 4 to 5% and put the rest to work in low-cost index funds. Vanguard's VTI or Fidelity's FZROX. Total market, diversified, boring, exactly what you want. So let's bring this home. The data is ugly. Median retirement savings for men in their 30s is catastrophically low, and the gap between I'm planning to start and I started is costing this generation hundreds of thousands of dollars each. The reason isn't laziness, and it isn't income. It's that your brain, quite literally, treats future you like a stranger. Hal Hershfield proved it in an MRI machine. And when you layer on identity chaos, lifestyle creep, and the quiet shame of feeling behind, avoidance becomes the default. But the fix isn't willpower, it's automation. Set up the auto transfer, max the match, escalate by 1% every 6 months, and do whatever weird little ritual it takes to make your future self feel real to you, because that guy is counting on you. Here's what I want you to sit with. The 30-year-old who starts with $500 a month ends up with over $1 million. The 35-year-old ends up with 3/4 of that. Not because he earned less, not because he invested worse, just because he waited. You don't need to be rich to start. You need to start to get rich. That's the whole game. If this hit, subscribe to Joe Invests. I put out one of these every week, cutting through the noise and giving you the real math on building wealth in your 30s and 40s. No hype, no crypto scams, no finance bro nonsense. Just what actually works. Your future self is watching. Don't make him a stranger. I'll see you next week.